What's going on, guys? We got a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff has been happening. I haven't recorded a video since obviously the prediction video for UFC 302. My father was in town. I had to entertain him. Plus, I had to get ready for 302, which a lot of people actually thought it wasn't that good of a card. We did really well on the card, so maybe that's why I looked at it a little bit different. When you're doing good and your wages are hitting and your predictions are hitting, like you just want your stuff to come out. But from an entertainment standpoint, a lot of people were calling it UFC 302 plus the main event, basically saying that the card was terrible plus the main event. I thought there was a couple good fights on there. I think that it could have been better, obviously, for a pay-per-view card. But I don't think it was horrendous. Like people thought it was horrendous. Like the co-main event, I get it. 5 rounds, no action. Polo Costa did not go after anything. Strickland kind of played it safe, but played it correctly. The main event was fantastic. You couldn't ask for more with Dustin Poirier. I wish he actually would have finished though. At least got to the cards. If you looked at the cards, a lot of people did have it 2-2. Some people had it 3-1. But if it did go to the cards, he probably would have lost anyway because you saw the cards afterwards. There was 2 of them that were 3-1, and one of them was 2-2. So going to the cards, he probably would have lost. But overall, it was a great fight. It was a really, really good fight. He came prepared. He showed that Islam Makhachev is human. He can be hurt. He was cupped, the worst I've ever seen him cup. But Islam also showed that he can go deep into that foxhole and deep into that fire, and he could prevail. So there's a lot of stuff shown in that main event that I did like. But the card itself, I get it. But on to some more important things. So first, I want to jump into the Mike Tyson thing. I told you for months and months and months that this fight was not going to happen. Anybody with a half a brain who has really, really followed Mike Tyson's career from when he was in his prime up until this point knows that in order for him to pass a legit medical, like they're going to have to jump through a few hoops, and it was going to be a hard sell. What this guy has been through physically and mentally and medically is crazy. Just to get this guy even keeled, to give him an even temperament, to kind of slow him down and kind of make him just think straight. He's on loads of SSRIs, he's on medications for his body and his mind. And here he is now at 57 years old, and he's going to come back and he's going to fight a 27-year-old kid in Jake Paul. And what people fail to remember and fail to understand, because they get baited into these YouTube channels and like Jesse on Fire, and it's not really an indictment on Jesse on Fire. It's just he's the first guy I could think of where he was putting all these videos out. Look at Mike Tyson. Look at these 30-second clips. Look at these 30-second clips. He's going to destroy. And obviously, he has a lot of followers, and people are following him, going, oh my God, he's right. Look at him. Look at those 30-second clips of him going nuts on the bag and hitting Rafael Cordero and Rafael Cordero going back and stuff. What these guys fail to remember is that these are 30-second clips that are probably 10-minute clips that they get the most brief, perfect moment that they get, and they could put it. And what they're not remembering, and I said this 2 months ago in a video, is what happens after 2 minutes. What happens after 3 minutes? What happens after 4 minutes and 5 minutes and 6 minutes? What happens then? What happens with Mike Tyson then? You showed a 30-second clip of him hitting, focus mitts and stuff like that. That's all fine and great. But that's a 10, 20, 30-second clip. Okay, so here we are now, months and months later, and people are telling me I'm crazy. It's Mike Tyson. It's Mike Tyson. The thing, I think people fall in love with the idea of Mike Tyson. That's what I think it is. They fall in love with the idea of I've talked to people that don't even watch boxing that were talking about going to the fight just because they wanted to see Mike Tyson. And I think they fall in love with the fantasy that you're going to get the Mike Tyson of old. Like you're going to see an image of the Mike Tyson of old, the Mike Tyson that was knocking out these guys back in the late 80s, early 90s. I think that's what people fantasize and fall in love with. It's not the same guy. I tried to tell you this guy. It's not the same guy. It's not even a shell of the same guy. Back in the day when my father when he was here this week, obviously he was the one who got me into boxing. We watched Foreman and Holyfield, right? We watched the whole fight on YouTube. And, we were remembering and we were saying to ourselves, do you remember when this fight happened? When people were saying, what is he, nuts? He's 40 years old. He's fighting Evander Holyfield. What is he? He's nuts. He's 40 years old. He's 40 years old. He's 40. People just kept saying he's 40 years old, 40 years old, 40 years old. So now me and my father were sitting down. We're going, okay, well, let's put this in perspective. Now, what happens if he was 57 years old? If he was 17 years older, what would everybody be saying then? No, I get it. He was fighting Evander Holyfield, totally different thing. But the fact of the matter is, it's still 2 decades older than he was at 40, and people thought he was nuts for fighting Holyfield at 40. So I think people just fall in love with the idea that it's Mike Tyson. He's back. They have this fantasy that he's going to come in and he's going to knock Jake Paul out. And it was never going to happen. Like, the fight was not going to happen because once he gets over this ulcer, he got to get back in camp. Then he's 58 years old. And then it just starts losing its allure, starts losing its allure, starts losing its allure. That's basically what happens. So it was never going to happen. And even with the stipulations that were put in place, first of all, guys, like 14-ounce gloves. Like, they give, if you guys have children out there, like, they'll give your kids 14-ounce gloves so they don't hurt each other. Like, they're pillows, 14-ounce gloves. Who are you knocking out with 14-ounce gloves? So 2-minute rounds, 8 rounds, 2-minute rounds, 14-ounce gloves, like clauses that were all in place that Joe Rogan was talking about. So it's like, what do you really want to see? Like, what would you want to see anywhere? Like, ultimately, what would your prime night be if that fight really did happen? What, see Mike Tyson knock him out like that? You'd be like, oh my god, like, you'd be talking about it for weeks. That Mike Tyson knocked out a YouTuber, like, that's what you would do. Or if Mike Tyson got knocked out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel so bad. Like, he was 57 years old, and like, which side are you on? Like, what would you really love to see about it? Like, there's nothing appealing about that fight. And if you've watched Mike Tyson his whole career and you followed his path, then this is like repulsive to you. If you were not a boxing fan and you've never really got to experience Mike Tyson on those Saturday nights when HBO would come on and it was must watch TV, and you never got to experience that, then I can understand. But that's where the casual mindset comes in. That's where these guys like Jesse on Fire and all these other guys, like, it's Mike Tyson, it's Mike Tyson. If you've watched him back in the day, with like Larry Merchant back in the day with HBO, when it was on HBO. Like, that's what it was on. It was fucking on HBO. And every time he fought, like, you just sat there and you're like, all right, how many seconds is it going to take this time? Or you just watched it like you watched Mayweather, when no matter who Mayweather fought, you're like, come on, this guy's got to beat him. Mosley, this one, that one. You just like watched for him to lose. Like, you were just hoping he was going to lose. If you watch every one of his fights, like, this fight does nothing for you. Nothing. It's the people that never really got to see him fight or never really paid attention to boxing back then that are all of a sudden now, it's like, I'm going to actually get like a glimpse of Mike Tyson. That's the excitement. That's where that excitement comes from. But boxing purists, people who watch boxing, people who understand it, people who follow him his whole career, have no desire to see this fight, and also kind of knew like this fight was not going to happen. So now he gets off the plane. He's sick. They have the medicals come in. He claims he's got an ulcer. When's the last time that you've heard any fight get canceled for an ulcer? Like, really think about it. Like, have you ever heard a fight getting canceled for an ulcer? I've heard numerous things: broken thumbs, cuts, obviously, but an ulcer. I've never heard somebody cancel a fight for an ulcer. The guy's not healthy. The guy's just not healthy. A medical board is going to have a very hard time selling that this guy is medically fit to fight. So, in order not to shame him in the public eye, in order not to put a black eye on the people setting this up and the commissions and stuff like that, they're not going to come out and tell you what really is going on here. But the fact of the matter is there's an underlying issue that he is not medically fit to fight, and to not shame him, to not air his dirty laundry out and stuff like that. This is what they're going to lay on. They're going to lay on it was a very bad ulcer. So now when the ulcer thing passes and it's going to be back at the training camp, and if it does happen, which I highly doubt it's going to happen, it'll be something else, and it'll be something else, and eventually it's just going to lose its allure. Already there's rumors coming out that somebody's going to step in and stuff like that. So like, that's what I mean, guys. Like, listen, I know it's entertainment. I know it's entertainment. I know boxing is entertainment. MMA is entertainment, and so is YouTube. Look, I'm doing it. I'm on here right now, and I guess what I do is entertainment. I don't know, but a lot of these clickbait images that you see, oh my God, he's gonna knock him out, and then you click on it, and it's a 30-second clip, and they're hyping you up and they're clamoring you up to get you ready for this big fight where Mike Tyson is what he used to be, and like, are you wasting your time, like, because you really believe in this, or you're wasting 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes of your time listening to these people? or are you just doing it for entertainment? If you're doing it for entertainment value, like, look, there's guys that I've clicked on their stuff just to watch it, to hear them make assholes out of themselves. Like, for instance, Conor McGregor, um, when he fought Mayweather, when he boxed Mayweather. There's not a single person on earth that actually thought that Conor McGregor had a shot in hell inside the boxing community. Outside of the boxing community that doesn't really understand the sport, yeah, they were clamoring, it takes one shot. And the biggest asshole of them all was this guy, Robin Black, out of Canada, who, like, literally should have had his credentials pulled after this, when he literally he made segments of videos, like segments leading up to the fight, talking about the game plan, part one, part two, part three. And then at the very end, the last, episode was the day of the fight. He's in his hotel room and he's like, he's going to do it. Conor McGregor is going to knock out Mayweather. He's going to do it. 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 And he's like, and nobody's going to see it coming. They should see it coming, but they don't want to see it coming. They didn't land it. And he put that, and I'm saying to myself, well, like, I was watching this kind of laughing at him. Like, I was like, I got to see what this guy has to say now. But there were people after that invested like 24 hours of probably YouTube videos of this guy that were actually buying into it, probably betting, taking Robin Black's word, this and that. And then when the fight ended, right? When the fight ended and he got carried, and they're not going to tell you that, but Mayweather absolutely carried Conor in that fight. Mayweather could have finished him at any time. He carried him for the fans. There was a big thing. He's not going to just finish him. He's going to carry him a little bit, and then he finished him. And Mayweather later in his career doesn't finish anybody. He comes on the thing and he's like, well, if there's one thing to learn here, and don't listen to the boxing fans, because if there's one thing to learn here, they haven't learned that we're figuring it out. And, they said he wouldn't land a punch and he wouldn't win the round and he wouldn't, don't listen to them because they're ignorant. They're ignorant. Like this is the shit that, so he was like completely backpedaling from he's going to knock him out to they said he wouldn't land a punch and he landed a punch. First of all, any human on earth knows that if you're in a fight, you're going to get hit at least once. I mean, who's sitting there saying he's not even going to land a punch? That's a figure of speech. But so what I'm saying, like, with that is, like, these are the kind of things that happen in the social media world where they want to make you believe and make you believe and make you believe. And if you want to, that's fine. But if you're watching it for entertainment, that's perfect. But if you're watching it and you're really buying into some of this stuff, like, just start using reality. Like, he's 57 years old going against a 27-year-old who takes boxing seriously, who's not a good boxer. But at the end of the day, like, you got Paul Pierce, you got these guys on TV going, at the end of the day, it's still Mike Tyson. Okay, so when he's 70 years old, you're going to say at the end of the day, he's still Mike Tyson? Just because he's Mike Tyson, not that he's 70, or not that he's 58, or not that he's 62, or not that but it doesn't matter how old he is and how his body's breaking down and how his mind is breaking down. It's still Mike Tyson. It doesn't even make sense. So you're telling me when Muhammad Ali lit the torch in the Olympics and he was shaking like this, that if you put him in the thing with a YouTuber right now, you're gonna be like, I'll tell you right now, it's still Muhammad Ali. Like, I don't care how he shakes and his Parkinson's, it's still Muhammad Ali. Like, come on, man. Like, come on, let's get with the program here. Let's get with the fucking program. Seriously. Another thing I want to talk about is Conor McGregor. I'm on the fence with this one. I really don't know what's going on. This is one that took a kind of really weird turn for me because at the end of the UFC 302, they were on the press box, Dana White, and he was leaving for Ireland right there. Like right after that, he was going. Him and Lene, his assistant, were going to Ireland, plus a host of other people. You get the venue, you got the people all psyched up all over Ireland, probably traveling everywhere to go see this thing. And last minute, it's had to be Conor. It wasn't Chandler. Chandler already came out and said it wasn't him. Not only does Conor cancel the presser in Ireland in front of his own people, but he cancels the entire media obligations up to the fight. So now here I'm saying to myself, okay, well, he's either on a bender or, what you guys were thinking. We were probably all thinking the same thing, right? Something happened. He either got hurt. He's doing this for, attention or whatever. But then you start thinking to yourself, no, wait a second. The thing that makes Conor McGregor great is his pressers, his build up to the fight. Like his build ups are amazing. The fights can kind of shit the bed if they want to, but his build ups are fun. You know, that I'll give him. His build ups are pretty fun. He's sharp. He's witty. He thinks quick on his feet. We all look forward. I was looking forward to it. So they cancel it, right? But they cancel all media obligations. So now you're saying to yourself, Dana White hasn't said nothing. The UFC just kind of put out a statement, which is kind of weird for them because they don't just usually put out a statement. There's usually Dana White comes out and talks. Like it was just like a written statement that they posted, which I found out, and it's been radio silent since. So now I'm saying to myself, well, the fight might not happen, you know, because he's canceled all media obligations and stuff like that. Then Ariel Helwani comes out, and the only reason why I'm buying into this a little bit is because he seemed very certain. And I'm not an Ariel Helwani guy. I think he was good back in the day. I think he still has his room in the sport, but I just think he's got his hands in too many things. I don't think he's. I I don't want to say this without putting him down too much. I just don't like him. I don't like him anymore, I should say. Um, but for a guy like him to come out and say, I assure you that there's nothing salacious here, there's no injuries, there's no drugs, there's no this, there's no that. I know this for a fact that the fight will still take place. I do kind of hold some onus in that. I do kind of put a little backbone into that because for Ariel to come out and say it like that, that is something where, you know, I'm like, all right, well, like him or hate him, he's got a huge following. He is a big staple in the sport. And for him to say, I assure you, he knows something. You know what I mean? So, and it's nothing salacious, nothing that we're all thinking. So now that's where I am. Then I wake up today and I see that the UFC, ESPN, they all pulled down all the ads for this fight. So that leaves me back to where I am before I heard Ariel stuff. And I'm like, wait, something's going on here. And this is what I came up with. This is what I think. This is my personal opinion. I don't think the fight's going to happen. I think that Dana White not coming out and talking about it. And listen, I could be dead wrong. This is just like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but let's just go on that end for a second. You know, I think Dana White not coming out and talking about it is because he doesn't have a main event in place yet. Okay, he doesn't have a main event in place. So if this main event did go up in smoke, it's supposed to be in Ireland. He doesn't have a main event in place now because Conor's off the card. He's not just going to come out and say, well, you know, guys, due to circumstances, Conor McGregor won't be fighting Michael Chandler, but we are working on a main event right now. People are like, what? In order for him to come out and talk and say that it's actually canceled, he's going to have a main event in place. So I personally think the reason why we haven't heard from him, the reason why he hasn't really, excuse me, the reason why he hasn't really spoken is because maybe he's in the war room right now figuring this all out. I know he's not happy. The guy flew to fucking Ireland and the press conference never happened. That's my personal opinion. I personally think the fight probably will not take place. When you start pulling ads down and you're canceling all media obligations, like that's not a publicity stunt. Like there's no publicity stunt behind that. There's like, okay, pull all the artwork down. We got to remake new artwork. We got to get a new main event. So whether it's going to be Michael Chandler against somebody else or they're going to fill it up with another main event, I think that's when you're going to hear Dana White come out and say, look, due to circumstances, Conor McGregor will not be fighting, on UFC 303. But in replace of that, we have a banger of fight. And he's going to try to sell you on that angle. Maybe it's a great fight and maybe it's not. But I do not envy the position that Dana White's in right now, especially with such a prime big spot like this. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it shakes out. But we will also have the UFC Louisville card broken down tomorrow. I will be at the office. I'll be in the studio. I just wanted to shoot this quick video for you guys. I'll talk to you later.